What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 9 of Meet the Streamer. I'm your man, Bacon Sweats, the host of the podcast where I shoot it live on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Bacon Sweats. I have a wonderful Twitch streamer who's been a big influence within my own career, Captain Archer. The conversation that we had was amazing. We had a lot of good key points. So if you guys want to go over to his Twitch, at twitch.tv/captain_archer. I much appreciate it. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like for more content, which will be rolling out every week. And then if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Google Podcasts, anything like that, make sure you guys spread it out word of mouth, especially if you're a streamer. This is meant to get the community together, people, to talk about the craft of streaming and to talk about the bumps in the road and where everybody started. So, that being said, I'm going to let you guys go listen to the podcast or watch it, depending on what platform you're on. You guys have a wonderful day and a fantastic time. Deuces. Intro is so loud. I still haven't edited. But sir, everybody, welcome to Meet the Streamer, the season 2 of this podcast, which is crazy. And I have one of the most influential streamers, I would say, on the platform. That's how I view it. Captain Archer. So
hey, what's shaking, Bacon? That's way too kind, man.
Yeah, no.
Let's bring it back a little bit.
No. So I the reason why I say that is for everybody, you were one of, when I decided I was gonna start streaming, which you probably don't know either. You were one of the first streamers I interacted with on the platform. Period. When it came to, you averaged about 19 to 20 that day, and that you were the first person I interacted with, and it stuck. Like, I wasn't bouncing around. I bounced around a little bit after the next day, but I always kept on coming back to the channel because of your interaction with me and everything like that, and the interaction that you have with your community. So,
well, dude, let me say, it was always great having you stop by because you always brought like a really positive vibe. And I'm sure, as you know from streaming, having somebody you can interact with that's like upbeat and happy to be there makes a huge difference.
Yeah, man, it's a different world, and that's kind of why this podcast kind of evolved, because when I first started streaming, I didn't really get. It's kind of hard to ask people because there's nobody out there that are like mentors, you know what I mean? So asking individual people about why they started streaming and the difficulties that they had, and the things that they love and what they don't love. And I think that's one of the things that streamers don't really talk about is your viewership. And I think a lot of big streamers feel it when their community become trolls. Like, you're at 20,000 people, but your community's 15,000 people of trolls, and they're trolling you all day. That has a giant influence on your stream. And even if you have 5 people in your stream, if you have one person that's very positive, it still makes it worthwhile to get on and actually stream.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see because I definitely, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, but I still consider myself one of the new streamers versus the people that have been doing this, for 5+10 years, whatever. It's the experience, I think, in growing your channel is just way different than it used to be back in the day. And you're right. So one of the things I like to focus on is interaction with chat and community and growing that kind of thing. And yeah, if you've got like 1,000 people in there, whatever it streams by, it is a completely different stream that you run.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Well, one of the first questions I wanted to ask you, because I don't really know the background. You said you've been streaming for a couple of years. What got you into streaming? Like, I know.
So yeah, actually, I started streaming. We were talking about this the other day, actually, on the stream when I was mentioning I was going to be here on the show. So if any guys are over from the archery, welcome, guys. We started up about 3.5 years ago. I was operating and running a local game store, hobby shop type thing, and we had started a podcast for Star Wars Legion, which is a tabletop miniatures game like 40K, but
Hmm.
Star Wars. You're familiar with the property?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of my employees actually did streaming at the time. I was like, oh, well, maybe this would be a good opportunity. We can show off the game, interact with people via Twitch.
Hmm.
And we had a moderate amount of success, but we'd stream like once a week, like live tabletop games and stuff, usually Star Wars related
Hmm.
things. And then I made the decision that I was going to sell the business because, well, turns out it was probably a pretty good idea based on what's been
Yeah.
going on.
Hmm.
So I ended up selling, and I was like, well, I'm going to school full time. Maybe I should like throw my hat in, actually try streaming. And I treated it like it was kind of a new business that I was starting, tried to be
Hmm.
professional about it, learn as much as I could. And actually, that's what I'm going for school for. I did a little videography and now some graphic design.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of how I got into it.
That.
Started with tabletop and now doing sci-fi games and
Mhm.
whatnot that I get around to today.
Well, that's a giant. That's a giant. Yeah, that's way different than I've heard. And most people are like, yeah, I was playing games. I decided to just turn on a camera and see where it goes. And that's like your inspiration for streaming came kind of outside of yourself. It came from something that's way different, as a
Yeah.
group. So that's really, really cool. You actually brought when I so I started watching you. The first day I watched you was on Sea of Thieves, which I guess you were having a community
Oh,
night.
really?
Yeah, so you were having a community night and you were playing Sea of Thieves, and then I came back the next day and you were playing. Um, what is the name of the game? I literally just had it in my head and then I stopped.
Star Citizen,
Star
Elite Dangerous.
Citizen, Star
Ah,
Citizen.
Star. Okay.
And I remember asking you because I had never been introduced to a game like that. Like I came from FPS shooters, so I came from games where mainly on the console. I had just moved to PC, and I saw that game, and that game was insane. And like
Yeah.
it is one of the most interesting games I've ever seen. And
Yeah. When it works, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Is that you said? I remember having that discussion with you. You said that it's still in beta form, or is it still in alpha?
It's still in alpha form. They're actually getting ready for a new content patch, but I've actually taken a little bit of a break from Star Citizen
Mm-hmm.
just because we were having since everybody started working from home, the development's kind of tanked on it a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So just trying to like time machine myself a little bit, play some other games, and
Mm-hmm.
check out major patches, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I still love Star Citizen, and I have it. My intention is for it to be a major cornerstone of my stream into the future, but we're checking out other things in the meantime too.
Yeah, which I saw you play like a lot of Star Trek. I saw you play Star Trek for a little bit, and playing that kind of that kind of game, and it's very very entertaining. The game because the game that you play is very interactive and it makes you think. It's not like you're just kind of sitting down and playing and shooting at things. It's very
Right.
yeah. Most of the games that you play are very like you have to know what you're doing. Kind of, there's a giant learning curve.
Yeah, there tends to be the ones like the simulation style, like Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, now Dual Universe, is tends to be a pretty steep learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
but I find they're the most engaging and rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Dual Universes, which we're kind of doing right now. It's my first like voxel style Minecraft, but with a lot of space sim elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, that eats up the clock.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta, yeah, when you're out there, making your factory or building your ship and flying around, it's like, wow. Sometimes I struggle to, get to my 4 to 6 hours of content that I want to do on a stream. But
It.
when a game is just challenging, keeps you busy, it helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just realized that too because I went from streaming. When I first started streaming Call of Duty, which was kind of weird, and I went from Call of Duty to I played a lot of smaller games, and then I got hooked on DayZ. And DayZ being the kind of game that it is, I would eat hours. Like I would sit there and play and talk to my chat, and then before I know it, I was on for like 10 hours, and I was like, I'm on way
Oh yeah.
longer, than I needed to be. And now that's kind of now I've switched to Destiny, so I've been playing a lot of Destiny because of the changes that they've made. I'm a giant
Okay.
Destiny nerd, and with Activision leaving Bungie, to kind of do whatever they want
Yeah.
to. That was kind of they've made a lot of changes for me to come back. So and that game, I put 200 days on that game for Destiny 1, and then the Destiny 2 came out, and I only put like a month and a half in, and I was like, I just can't play the game. It's just not the same game. I didn't like where it was going, so I took 2.5 years off, and now I'm back. And that game is another one that eats time, like no
Well,
other.
you mentioned something, and now I've got a question for you. Well, I got two questions. Number one, how do you find the community generally on the FPS platforms like Call of Duty?
So when I first, I've always had a very tight group of friends that kind of came from Destiny to other platforms. Before I played Destiny, I didn't really have a lot of people that I played with, because there's no, like, you play Call of Duty, like you may have like one or two friends that I played with in high school, or a
Uh-huh.
couple other people. When I went to Destiny, it was very clan oriented, so it was very like you had to have 3 to 6 people on at all times, which is something that I wasn't introduced for. And because of that game, now I have a very tight net group of friends in my real life that have carried with me to other games. I would say that the FPS community, it doesn't matter what game you go to, and a lot of people, especially Call of Duty, the community itself tends to be toxic outside
Mm.
of what your group of friends is that's playing. And I think a lot of the reason why is because it's kind of like what I said before. Like, I found people to play with on Destiny, but before that, I was just by myself. And when you're by yourself, you're willing to kind of say or do whatever you want because you're kind of bored outside of the game anyway. And I think that's a lot of the issue with FPSs when it comes to that. I think that Destiny, for instance, like, it's an FPS, but it's more set up like an MMO. So like the community itself is very, there's a lot of things that are going on between raiding and doing strikes, and people are more likely to help you out and describe mechanics of things, and kind of describe like, hey, this is what you're going to want to do for your quest, and stuff like that. So there's
This
more
is like
togetherness.
cooperation, right?
Exactly. So you have like different steps that you're doing, and and getting engrams, and everybody's trying to get to the highest light level. So like everybody's kind of against each other, but they're on board at the same time. So
Okay.
it's one of those things. I've noticed from playing DayZ though that, like, so DayZ is kind of an FPS or a third person shooter depending on what kind of server that you choose. And I noticed that when I was playing third person, people tend to be more friendly than people who only play an FPS, like role playing servers. And I don't know what correlation there is between the two. I don't
Huh.
know if people who, most third person games happen to be, like Final Fantasy, things like that, like people that are coming from. And I feel like the community when I was playing DayZ, like, you run into like hostile people, like people, your life kind of really matters, because if you die, like, everything's gone. You start from
Right.
scratch again. So people value that life a lot, and I feel like they value it way more in third person than they do in first person, because I feel like first person, everybody's trying to treat it like a Call of Duty, which is
Interesting.
hmm
Yeah, I wonder if there's some psychology there. Like, yeah, I see my guy represented on the screen, so it's a more tactile, or
yeah.
it's right there.
Yeah, and then that's why, like, some say, but DayZ, I can't say enough good things. Like, that game catapulted my stream, like, over the 2 months that I played it nonstop. I kind of burned myself out because I was playing 10 to 12 hours a day, outside of
That'll
work.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but that game, like, I didn't realize that, because it came from Arma, you know what I mean? So it was a branch off of
Mhm.
Arma, and then the modders and everything that were developing DayZ kind of branched off and made their own game. And with that, because it's so, like, modders are kind of, they rule the roost over the game developers. So like they went ahead, and there's some servers that you have to communicate. There's rules to each server, and you choose what kind of rules that you want to kind of live by within the server. So some servers where you have to speak first before you engage to somebody, or there's
Oh, really? Wow.
there's some servers where you make a base, and that base, the only way you can get like into somebody's bases going through doors, while there's others where you can go through walls. So it's you know, it's just different. Like, you know, there's some that have trading outposts, so you can go to the trading outpost with some weapons and trade with other people that are there. And you know, there's some that the only way that you're gonna be able to get guns and stuff like that is by finding or killing people. So it's a different experience based on the server that you're on. You know, and it's kind of one of the big things. And I found, and I don't know if this is every game, but when you play an FPS, I've played with other people from all around the world, playing FPS like in EU servers versus NA servers. The EU servers are way more relaxed than the North American servers, and I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because the population base is so small, or it's a different culture thing, or what it is. But they tend to be a little bit nicer than NA. So it's a little weird, I guess.
That's because Americans think that they're Mandalorians and guns are part of their religion.
True, so. True. Well, I was gonna ask you. So is there any games since you've been streaming, like for instance, I can't play Valorant, which is something that, you know, when I enter, I can't play it because I cannot focus on my chat. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're a streamer, especially, you know, a smaller streamer or a newer streamer, you have to focus on your community first before you can decide that you're going to play, you know, games in front of 15,000 people or however many people you want to play in front of. You have to like establish a community first, and your community is what brings people in a lot of the time because they see the interaction that you have with them. Is there any games that you have played that you're like, I just can't play this because I can't interact with my chat? Or have you specifically
PlanetSide 2?
PlanetSide. and what why is that? Is it just because you're so focused?
Because I tend towards co-op a lot. I do some FPS things. PlanetSide 2 was a game I had played a couple of years ago, and one of the longtime members of my community was like, "Oh, you know, I play this all the time." I was like, "Dude, I'd like to dust that off." So we gave it a try. I played it for a couple of weeks, but I found that with that game, if you lose focus, you go to respawn. Just go to respawn, you know?
True.
And while I did have a lot of fun, and there's a pretty good community for it, even for a game that's been out like over 10 years now, I think. It was just, I couldn't keep up the level of interaction with my chat and also focus on the game. So I felt like I was contributing to the team. So I just kind of had to, you know. And then I actually had people, because I was basically gunning for a really good combat pilot. But the way he flew caused people to have like motion sickness, and they're like, "Oh man, you know, I got to kind of minimize. I'll listen, but I can't watch right now." I was like, "Oh, okay." So we put all that info in the pot, stirred it up, and said, "Okay, maybe this isn't the right fit for the channel."
Which you also, I'm glad that you said that, because you're actually one of the only people that I've seen that uses a flight stick. Like you actually use, like you actually use it in the games that you play, which is very intriguing because I haven't really seen that before. Then, you know, you actually have a setup for that, you know?
Yeah, that's it's a little bit more for like the space sim, flight sim communities. I'm sure Microsoft Flight Simulator is huge right now.
Crazy.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are using their sticks there. I got the stick set up when I started. I did Elite Dangerous content for the better part of a year, almost exclusively. So I spent a little money, upgraded my rig, because I felt like you need to have the right equipment if you want to gain the respect of your chat, right?
True.
But
True.
just my little crappy 3D Pro, you know, whatever it was, stick that I had with. But no, I try to use it whenever I can because playing sims like that, like the old X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and Wing Commander series, I actually had a little joystick for that when I was growing up. So
oh,
it was
really?
kind of a nice coming home thing. Yeah.
Awesome. And the new Star Wars game that's coming out that has is that something that you're going to dive into?
Yeah, actually, we were just talking about this the other day. Yeah, Star Wars Squadron's going to be out October 5th. I actually just pre-ordered it yesterday. I decided to pull the trigger on it. I expect expect we'll probably stream it a couple of days for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how the community does. We've got a really good amount of momentum going with Dual Universe, so I don't want to futz with it too much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely this kind of a selfish game for me to go play because it's Star Wars,
Yeah.
it's sim, it's cooperative, but it's also competitive with
Mm-hmm.
the team-based fight. So yeah, we'll give it a try.
Well, and that's yeah, I'm glad that you brought. So I had a discussion with my buddy about that game because I saw that it was there and I was like, I didn't really know anything about it. He told me that the game is supposed to be very sophisticated, so you're supposed to like
Yeah.
actually have. It's kind of like Flight Simulator in the sense that there are knobs and stuff like that that you have to individually press while you're flying, which when I first, I mean, even now, I never thought that that's where gaming was gonna kind of go, and I'm starting to see that that's kind of, especially for simulations, that's exactly where it's going, where it's becoming more and more complicated, not, more streamlined like I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, this is it's going to be interesting. I haven't gotten to obviously I haven't gotten to sit
Mm-hmm.
down and play it yet, but based on what they said, it feels like it's going to be a little bit lighter than traditional space sims like your Star Citizen Elite Dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
but not quite like Star Fox or anything.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is these complicated games have been out there, but they've been in such a niche category. But
Mm-hmm.
now with like sticking the Star Wars label onto it,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, now it's getting mass media attention. People are realizing it. I mean, this, like you were saying earlier,
Mm-hmm.
this is a genre that you don't have experience with. You come from the Call of Duty,
Yeah.
Destiny, yes,
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and now they're dropping this one in your lap, and it's like, whoa.
Yep. And now you kind of open your eyes, and that's kind of it. It's kind of weird because I'm starting to see that I didn't think Flight Simulator, for instance, we talked about that. When I bring it back to streaming, I never thought that that game was going to get as much traction as it did on Twitch, and still does. Like, that game blew up way. I thought it was going to be a very niche game and people were going to like not really watch it as much because it is there is a lot of sitting down and being very technical, and I think that I don't know, I never thought that people were going to attract to it like it has.
Yeah, it turns out that I'm right there with you. It kind of
Mhm.
blew my mind, talking to it's basically there's an audience for these simulators out
Mhm.
there, whether it's European Truck Simulator or
Mhm.
Ice Road Truckers or things like that. There's
Yep.
some huge streamers for
Yep.
that, massive audiences. And I was like,
Mhm.
really? I didn't get it either. But then
Mhm.
again, here I am playing like slow-paced space games and
Mhm.
what I find is people like to play it themselves, but because it is kind of a slower pace, they'll throw up a stream on the side and then have like a community interaction going while they're doing the other thing.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking that might be something similar with these styles. I
Mhm.
don't know. I got a couple of guys that are really into the flights. I mean, I'll have to ask them about it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I played it once. I played it. I did like a joke on my stream, and it was like I flew around to different cities, and I did that for a day. That was like
Oh, right
our
on.
interaction of it. And I flew over. It was kind of weird because I was able to fly over my high school and stuff like that, and I was like, I was very I didn't know how I felt about it because I was like, man, I mean, they had my school down to a T, and
Yeah,
it's very
yeah. They
very
did
weird.
for it, I think, is part of the attraction. It's really impressive.
Hmm. And so we did it, but I can't do it more than a day because it's just not my thing. Like, I understand, like, if other people play it like that, it's perfectly fine. And I think that that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think when somebody is streaming, should they there's a lot of newer streamers that they go and they kind of play everything, and they're like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna play everything and see what catches. Do you think that somebody should figure out what they like to play first before they start streaming, and kind of going into that and just bouncing it off one genre, or do you think they should do that and just keep doing trial and error?
That's a good question because I'm still figuring that out
Yeah,
myself.
exactly.
Uh, what I could say is if you get the chance, do some research.
Mhm.
Ideally, what you might find is a game. It could be out for a while that like RimWorld or something like that.
Mhm.
That still has been out for forever at this point and still has a massive numbers of viewers.
Mhm.
But you also want to find one with kind of maybe a lower representation on streamers. So there's kind of a sweet spot. But if it, I mean, obviously you want to play something you're excited about
Yeah.
because so much of your energy can for the stream and interaction can come from what you're actually playing. If you're not having fun, then it's people are going to find out. They're going to be able to tell, or they're just like, this guy isn't, very interesting or
Yeah.
whatnot. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I mean, start with something you know. I'd be wary of things like Call of Duty if I was starting out, just
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
so many people streaming it.
Hmm.
Um, find something else maybe you enjoy. I mean, I started out the first things I did. I started Knights of the Old Republic playthroughs
Okay. Oh.
because I was like, this will be fun. It's something I know I'll enjoy. I never got to finish the games. I'm a Star
Hmm.
Wars nerd. Let's go do this.
Hmm.
And I've still got a couple of guys from those early days that
Hmm.
are regulars, but yeah, do your research, look around, see what people are playing, see what might be underrepresented, and try to find that kind of sweet spot.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the same thing. I mean, I've bounced around a lot. I think that was one of the first things that, I mean, everybody talks about it. You want to play less saturated games. And like
Hmm.
when I first started streaming, and I think a lot of people feel this way, they tried to see if they're going to like it. And then for me, I got hooked immediately. Like, actually streaming and the technical side of it and everything like that. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of what drove me from Call of Duty and drove me to other games and trying out other games. And I never thought I was gonna like survival games. I never thought I was gonna like DayZ and get hooked
Hmm.
on something like that because I'd never experienced it. And now, with everything, it's kind of like the perfect. It was like the perfect wave. I was playing DayZ and then I heard the stuff about Bungie and Activision splitting up, and I was like, this is kind of the perfect opportunity to get into the game that was the game I wanted to stream. Period. When I that's the inspiration that I had was to play that game online or on stream, and now I have the opportunity. So I think that's one of the things that there's a lot of people. You probably get this a lot where there's a lot of people that come in that ask you those questions, and it's all trial and error. It's kind of like what you said. You're not gonna fit. I mean, it's gonna be months or even years until you figure out what you're gonna want to play, or even like what you like to play, because that changes and varies depending on what you're doing too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, one of the things that has been in education this last year that I've been going.
Hmm.
I mentioned I played Elite Dangerous for probably the better part of a year, almost exclusively,
Hmm.
and then I tried to branch into Star Citizen, and I saw numbers were suffering because they were there for Elite Dangerous more than they were there for me.
Hmm.
So I kind of went through a little thing where I'm trying to find other games to play, and finally some things started to stick, but. I still get people coming, dropping by, like, "Hey, when are you going to come back to Elite Dangerous?" It's like,
Hmm.
dude, I got burned so hard.
Yeah.
I met so many great
Hmm.
people in there, and I maintain relationships with like the Operation Ida. They're one of the big organizations in there
Hmm.
that does their stuff, and I love to keep in touch with those guys until they have like they've got a big expansion coming next year in
Hmm.
Odyssey where they're adding like FPS content, things like that. I'll probably spend a lot
Interesting.
of time again,
Okay.
but I think I'll ever go back to like that as my exclusive game. Mostly because I don't want to get have to go through the same process again. It's like basically regrowing my community for
Hmm.
whatever game I end up on after that.
Which I think a lot of people, they don't realize. I think that's what hurts a lot of people who first start streaming, is like they kind of do that. They play a game, then there is a lot of that. Like I experienced that with DayZ and other games too,
Hmm.
where people just they watch it because they love that game, but not necessarily like they love watching streams. They just love people like playing that game. And they'll bounce around, and as soon as you leave that game and stop streaming it, they just found another streamer that's doing it. And I think a lot of people, when they see their community kind of take a hit for it, they kind of get down on themselves instead of kind of
Oh
tweaking
yeah,
what they're
no, it
doing.
feels.
Hmm.
But I do a little. I try to like kind of be real with myself in those instances because I do this too. Like I've got streamers I probably haven't checked out in several months to a year. I
Hmm.
still love what they do, and they're still
Hmm.
doing their thing. They're just not playing anything I'm really interested in.
Hmm.
So I try to keep that in the back of my mind. It's like it's probably less that they all of a sudden just don't, like your channel or anything. Just the content isn't what they're looking for right now.
Hmm. And I think that's one of the things that like I had to train myself too, because you never like I don't know how you, I feel like a lot of streamers do it where they kind of get in their own head. You know what I mean? As soon as they see like the number change or the game change, or you know, it takes one knucklehead coming into your stream and like saying some stuff, and then you're just like you have to not put on a fake smile, but you have to like try and rub it off in the middle of your stream, and it's a lot of factors that affect your persona in front of the camera. So
sorry, I got stuck on the rubbing off in the middle of your stream there.
Huh? Yeah, man. But how many? So I think I can, because I experience it a lot. How often do you have other streamers come into your stream and ask you questions about streaming and stuff?
There's definitely people like yourself that I know stream, and then it is actually something we were talking about beforehand, where it's becoming more of a collaborative
Mm-hmm.
environment, especially I think with smaller streamers
Mm-hmm.
that are trying to, network and coordinate. So, like I mentioned, the Elite Dangerous guys. Like I keep in touch with a lot of those streamers still, and we'll raid each other and
Mm-hmm.
catch up, see what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I'll have people stop by, or they'll mention they're thinking about streaming and ask questions, and I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's why I was really thrilled to be on today, because I like stream crafting. I think
Yeah,
it's a really interesting, the gameplay and the community, that's a good part of it. But if I didn't enjoy the actual process of it, I probably would have stopped by now.
hundred
Um,
percent.
yeah, you try to grow, you try to get a little bit better each time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just fascinating because you've got the problem solving aspect, you've got the entertainment aspect, there's the tech side of things. So it's just kind of this nice gelatinous ooze of putty to go play with and mold into your own thing, and it's enthralling.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I think that's why I got hooked so quick. I've never and I think a lot of people they get it twisted on you're going to school for graphic design, and you're literally going, it sounds like you're going to school, like you said, for streaming. Like I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
I'm
for
trying to
that.
pick up skills that will help me in my streaming career.
And I think a lot of people get, I mean, I did. I thought I could never do it because I didn't know graphic design. You know, I could mess with Photoshop, which is what I do now. You know, that
Uh-huh.
I've always been able to do that. But you don't have to be the most artistic person in the world to be a streamer. You just have to figure out what your niche is. I know a lot of people that literally just, their platform is different from how mine looks, and their stream has evolved way different, where it's literally just the game and their camera, and there's not much more, but they've made their stream work based on based on that, not just flashy colors and stuff like that I think a lot of people, I mean, I ran into that. That was the first. My stream looked like a hot mess the first time I turned it on. I had purple everywhere. My screen was weird. I didn't have any filters on my camera and anything like that. And then, you know, very progressive. Progressive change, and now my stream looks a little bit more streamlined, and it's more me. And I think you.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it takes a little bit of time to figure out what you want your platform to look like. It's not going to be an all of a
Yeah.
sudden thing.
Yeah, definitely. It is an evolution, like you said. I did have a little bit of a head start because I kind of knew a little bit about scenes, and I knew what I liked other people to do. And
Hmm.
honestly, one of the things I wish I was better at was going and checking out other people's streams that I don't know, because I don't get a whole lot of time for that, and I like to visit, my friends out there.
Hmm. Yep.
But that's where you find, like, oh, look at that guy's alert, or I like what they did here,
Hmm.
or this girl's being really engaging with their community. I wish, oh, they have like a status up they do midstream. I should probably do something like that, and
Hmm.
get the ideas that you kind of collect and try out on your own stuff. So it's that, like you said, the trial of you know pass or fail, basically, whether it works for you or not. And that,
Hmm.
but it's the process that you need to keep engaging in. I think that's the most important thing.
And just because you've been doing it now for, I mean, you said you're still relatively newer, which is fine. But what is the thing that you think newer streamers, just so they, because there's a lot of newer streamers that are going to be listening to this, what do you think that newer streamers do to kind of sabotage themselves within their own stream, before
Oh,
they can even take off?
oh man, yeah. This actually is you're familiar with Alpha Gaming, Harris
Yeah,
Heller, I'm sure a lot of
100%.
yeah, of course.
100%.
And I started watching him several months back, but this is one of the things he says, and I 100% agree, is grinding does not equal growth. Because if you're out there doing 12-hour streams for like no people, you're not
Hmm.
helping your channel grow. So what you got to do is reach out and start a YouTube channel, start a podcast,
Hmm.
do something else to get your channel out there in front of other people, sell them on your personality, and then have them come and join your community. Then there'll be hopefully a little bit of a snowballing once you're like, oh, there's, a dozen people in this channel. Let's go
Hmm.
see what's going on.
Yep. And I think I 100% agree. So Alpha Gaming's a little weird for me because I was very skeptical. I think a lot of people
Oh,
are.
yeah.
I was very
Yeah.
skeptical watching his videos, and Harris Heller, even now, like I use some of his non-copyrighted stuff that he allows people to use. I use that for my stream now. I know we'll talk about that because that's one of the things that I want to touch up on. And I was very skeptical because I was like, what does this guy actually know? You know what I mean? Like, you're
Mhm.
telling me, because he lays it, he's very like truthful on what he believes, and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
some things that I don't necessarily agree with, when it comes to community and stuff like that. When it comes to one of the main things that I disagree with is rating, right? So he said one of the things that he makes rating sound like it's not valuable, but
Uh-huh.
rating is valuable in, well, at least for me, for collaborations, and I think he doesn't hit that
Yes.
enough. Like, I feel like he tells people, well, you're rating, but you're not gonna, or if you do get rated, you're not gonna get any of those people. It's not really for that. Like, I feel like rating is more like you see a streamer and you like his content, you go and raid him, or raid her, and then they come back and maybe you do collab and play a game together, or you guys do like a podcast, or do anything, or make a video, or just have a discussion. That's huge, because then you're kind of influencing, you're putting yourself out there to other communities, which is insane.
Yeah.
So but he is, if you guys, for anybody who's listening or watching this, if you guys haven't gone over to Alpha Gaming, I'd highly suggest him, man.
Yeah.
He's on point. He kind of speaks on his, like, so the podcast that I'm doing now is different from him because he's basically been in the game for so long that he's been able to say, this is what worked for me, this is what didn't work for me, this is what I see since I've been there, and he's able to give his own antidote. I'm doing that by bringing all the most streamers together and talking about the platform, and kind of having a different result, so people can have different viewpoints on it than just one person giving you their viewpoint.
Yeah.
So
And I think that dude absolutely sets the bar on like the amount of energy and work he puts into growing his thing. So, but you're right. What he says isn't like you should absolutely adopt as your own
mm,
thing, because you got to think critically about what your channel's trying to do, what your audience is. But there are some genuine nuggets of wisdom in there to
mm,
mine. Honestly, I'd even go as far to say I would agree with probably about 85 to 90% of what he says,
yeah,
because it's just fairly common sense stuff for a lot of it.
mm-hmm.
But everybody's mileage may vary.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's another thing that I think a lot of people don't. I mean, I thought I had a different. I thought I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to get affiliate. In my head, I wasn't going to get affiliate until a year and a half, and I was like, maybe at a year and a half, then I'll get affiliate because I'll have some things figured out, and maybe I'll track some people. And my channel my channel is weird, and I don't look at it that way now. I kind of look at the long term instead of looking at what's happening now,
Uh-huh.
because a lot of people, you have to, I feel like a lot of people think that they're going to turn on their camera and then they're going to instantaneously become famous, or they're just
Yeah.
going to catch attraction, when, I mean, in all reality, just in the technical side of stuff and making your stream squeaky clean and making it look great, that takes months, if not like a year to
Wait,
figure out.
wait, you didn't go live and instantly have a huge following?
Nah, I don't think any. I think.
Jeez, okay.
Yeah, I know. Okay, don't make me feel like that, please. I think a lot. There's very. I think a lot of people are like, oh well, this person got on and blew up. But yeah, they blew up because they had something else outside of streaming. They came to streaming, and then their following, they came from a different platform, came over. You know, it's like,
Yeah, a lot of that.
you know, not everybody's gonna be you know, there's not going to be a lot of people that are like that. You have to put in the time and the effort, and you know, one of the questions I want to ask you is how valuable is having a schedule to you, like having a set schedule of when you get on and like what days that you're on.
Figuring out. Well, okay. Number one, having a schedule is absolutely important.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I think, and finding what works for you. Like I tend to change mine up every couple of months, but I usually try to aim about the same time. It's kind of a knowing your community, knowing the game that you're going to be streaming situation there. But like, I'm in a very good place where now I have, like yesterday we were, or yeah, no, Friday we were doing. We've got a ritual that we do on Fridays. It's our trekking into the weekend. We've been doing it for 7 months now straight, pretty much. And we get on, we play some Star Trek Online. We do that for a couple hours. And then we go and watch Next Generation Watch Party, which was kind of a new thing we were experimenting with.
Okay.
And it's mostly just an excuse to hang out with people. And I treat it more like a graphical chat room when I'm doing Star Trek Online. Everybody tell their week, all that kind of stuff. But I found I had people already before I'd even hit live, like there was interaction in my chat room. And I was like, oh, you guys are hanging out. Should we just go live, you know, a couple minutes early? And it's like, yeah, we fired it up. But because they knew so to get to the point, that I have this schedule, 5 p.m. PST, you know, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I've been hammering that home. I try to reiterate that a couple times during the stream, especially if I know we're in a new game with new people coming in. And, you know, push the Discord because I got the stream schedule on there, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, absolutely valuable. And also it helps me mentally prepare because I know, hey, okay, it's 4:00. You know, got to start shifting into streamer mode, start getting things ready, make sure my energy levels are up. I'm ready, mentally prepared to go do the thing that I want to do because I want to be fun. I want to be entertaining. I want to be sincere. And I just want to do turn out the best product I can.
Yep. And I feel the same way. So would you say, and I kind of experience this, and you may not, so when you're streaming, when you hit the stop or you hit the end after you like raid somebody or after the stream is done, how exhausted are you? Just out of curiosity.
I don't do your crazy streams. Like, if I go 7 or 8 hours, that's an aberration. Like I'm really in the zone. I'm really vibing the game, that kind of thing. But yeah, it is exhausting. So, I'm kind of an introverted extrovert. I don't know. I like to play up, but it does cost me energy reserves, and I got to go like sit down and, you know, read a comic book or something like that, or just put on an episode of something and chill for a while before I can even go to bed. Because if I try to go straight to bed, it's kind of horrible. But yeah, when I'm done, I try to like, oh, let me go hit up Twitter. You know, let me go thank some people for, you know, if somebody was being awesome, like reach out to them. But some nights I just don't have the energy for that. I just got to go plop on the couch for a little bit and, you know, have a snack and then recharge a little bit.
And that's actually one of the things that I've changed is I do not stream like that anymore. I refuse. Okay. Like I did 124-hour stream when I hit 200 followers. That I will never.
That was a celebration. Okay.
I will never do that again unless I'm doing a charity event. Like that's how. Yeah, it was very taxing. Like my body hurt afterwards, and that I don't know if it's because like I wasn't walking around or doing whatever. But now I average about 4 to 6 hours is usually around my stream, and I feel like when you do that, people are more likely to stay in your stream for that 4 to 6 hours because it's really it's really not that long. You do 8, that you have to think about it. 8 hours is like somebody's full-time job, and like
Yeah.
sitting down and watching you for 8 hours, it's a long time. That takes a very dedicated viewer to sit there and crank that much time out. So
Yeah, you start seeing the kind of the ebbs and the flows of viewership. It's like, okay, the first wave of people
mm,
is, they're logging off because they got other stuff to go do, or they just had their fill for that evening, and then you might pick up. It's really kind of interesting finding again that what works for your community, because I find I ramp up pretty quick in the beginning, and then around that 2.5 hour mark, it dips down a little bit, and then sometimes we'll pick up, like we've got the beta squad, I guess, that comes in. They're on a little bit later, and then I
uh-huh.
start seeing names I recognize again, but they weren't there
hmm
at the beginning. So yeah. So having that start time that I have, it's like, so 5 p.m. on the Pacific Coast, that's like 8 o'clock your time.
hmm
So I get those East Coast guys, and they're there till like maybe 10 or so, and then they go
hmm
to bed. And then the Pacific Coast guys kind of log in and start doing their thing. But sometimes there's a lull in the middle, and it's really hard to work through that because chat just goes silent, for like half an hour, and then I'm just talking to myself.
a hundred
I try to
percent.
get it going with like I'll ask questions of like, so the last person is like, oh, how you doing, what's going on, what
hmm
are you working on, that kind of thing. Try to prompt chat again.
hmm
But yeah, it can be tough.
Yeah, I that's actually one of the things that is kind of it's kind of weird, right? The dipping and the seeing like when people come on, and it's kind of one of the things that I was seeing with my channel is it was kind of like a graph where like I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it was on a giant, it was an up. I wouldn't have that many people on for like the first hour of my stream, and all of a sudden it would just skyrocket and then plateau. And then it, depending on if somebody would raid me, it would go up and stuff like that. And, it was one of those things where I was like, man, what am I doing? And then all I did was change what time I got on to an hour later than what I was doing. And then I saw everybody show up all at once. And that was kind of different.
Nice. Did
Um,
you have a set start time previous to that?
yeah, I
It
did.
was just, you just moved it, the time slot 1 hour. Oh, wow, that,
Yeah,
yeah, great.
yeah. So I moved it 1 hour, and I think a lot of that is because there's a lot of people that they work and stuff like that, and I was getting on at like 4 or like 5, and I changed it to like 6 p.m., and that ended up changing it. And then I had a job where I was working at night, so then I had to switch it to morning time, and that completely took my community and put it into a spiral. And I was like trying to figure out what time. I was like, I don't know what to do. Do I like go to bed when I get off work and wake up and stream, or do I stream as soon as I get off and try to stream at midnight? And
Yeah.
really couldn't like it's one of those things where like I had to like fine tune. And now it's different because I'm going back to more PM streaming, and a lot of those people are coming back. And a lot of those people are happy that I'm going back to that time because they get off work or they're getting off school, and they're able to get on. So it's kind of crazy. Now the weird thing is that Twitch is not very known, and I want to announce this to a couple people. Twitch is not known for podcasting. Twitch is known for gaming. So
Uh-huh.
like my that was one of the other things that I have had to accept as well, is like I put this on Twitch for the people that want to view it and stuff like that. But this is more going to Spotify and YouTube and things like that. Like I'm doing it live for people to see it, but most of the consumption of a podcast is usually when people are going to work or they try to split it up, which is kind of, what I do, especially with like Joe Rogan and some of the other ones that I'll like
Yeah.
listen to it and I'm like, okay, I can stop it now and I can listen to it later, which is what a lot of people do with podcasts, which I didn't really understand at first. And I was like, man, my numbers, where are they going? And then I was like, it's a different platform than what I do. I'm talking normally. I'm not, my energy isn't through the roof. Like I'm not bouncing up and down and doing things like that. Like I'm more and asking serious
It's
questions and stuff like
conversational
that.
right now. Yeah.
Exactly. So and I think a lot of people, they a lot of people I've had people ask me, they're like, yeah, when your numbers are down, I don't really look at it that way because I know this is going somewhere else. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the numbers may be
No,
low
I think
now, but later on.
this is one of the things that has been warned about, but I think you're doing it absolutely right, and that's like double dipping. Like I'm trying to go live to Twitch, YouTube at the same time, but
hmm
you're splitting your communities. You're not able to do that, but you're here doing something that you can record and put up later. So for the hardcore fans, hi guys
Hi, guys.
that that are here
Mhm,
to see you do your podcast live. I mean, that's an extra value add for them
mhm,
rather than being the point of what you're doing. So
mhm,
you're adding value to your product, and also you should be. I don't know if you are,
mhm.
but when you go and publish the podcast, like, hey, are you having fun with the podcast? Come catch it live. I'm sure you pitch your channel and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
which
But
is
I think that's a fantastic use. That's brilliant.
yeah, it's a weird thing. It it's a weird thing. I think that was so one of going outside of that. One of the things I want to ask is because your channel, the vibe of your channel is very it's awesome. Like I love the vibe of it when I come in, the music and everything. I wanted to ask you, how has copywriting changed that for you? At least like the copyrighted music of, has it changed a lot for you for your channel and stuff like that? And like, do you hand pick music that you listen to now versus what you were doing before?
Yeah, so that's changed a little bit. Yeah,
Mm,
there's a little bit to unpack there.
mm,
Um, Basically, I don't care about the copyright. I'm a
mm,
tiny, tiny fish in a gigantic ocean,
uh-huh,
and I think that there was a lot of hype built up.
mm,
Speaking of alpha gaming again,
yeah, mm,
so about this time that it was coming out, Harris was also publishing a, hey, here's my Spotify stuff. You guys can use it for free.
yep,
And he was upfront, like, I make money off of this.
yep,
But I feel like that kind of led to a little bit more hysteria than was really necessary. I went through and I looked at Twitch's guidelines for
mm,
like the copyright and strike takedowns. And based on what I was reading, it didn't seem like it really affected me that much.
mm,
If some music company wants to come and sit on my stream and say, "Hey, that's one of our songs. You can't play that."
mm,
Okay, that's fine. It was mostly like the big guys that are, have thousands of
mm,
people and thousands of views on clips.
yep,
Clips is where they're getting in trouble because they
mm,
stay up forever.
yep,
And Twitch has said that they're going to get rid of clips or give you the option to get rid of
yep,
clips. And which, as soon as they do, I'm probably going to turn it off because clipping isn't a big part of my show.
mm,
And if it means I can keep the vibe and the music like rock, classic rock,
yeah,
metal, these are the things I listen to when I stream.
yep,
And I think it helps me turn out a better product. If someday they come back and say, "Oh, you can't do that anymore,"
mm,
I don't know if I could make the full transition to like the lo-fi hip hop kind of thing, which is the default
yeah,
go-to for a lot of this stuff.
mm,
But it would definitely. I'm hoping we don't have to get to that because there's that's part of the community building is, and
mm,
that's one of the feedback things I get the most is like, oh, dude, I came to check out the game, but you were playing Maiden or something like that,
mm,
or some of the '90s grunge or
yeah,
whatever it was, and that'll hook them in and. They'll hang out for the music and we can talk about, oh, did you see this band,
mm,
that it's part of the vibe of the community. And I would be very sad if we had to ever get rid of that.
yeah. I think that's. So I think I 100% agree with you that I think that people blew it out of proportion more than what it needed to, especially now stepping away from it now that a couple months has kind of gone by since that talk has happened and stuff like that. Um, I kind of feel the same way. And I mean, it's kind of weird. Like I listen to a lot of music and a lot of various stuff. Like my favorite genre of music is blues, which a lot of people don't listen to anyway, but that's what I listen to on my own time, and jazz with Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. But I
Oh,
also
nice. Yeah.
listen to like bluegrass, and I listen to rap and EDM stuff, and it's kind of all over the place. My playlist
You
is
listen to Iron Horse.
I have because of my dad, but it's one of those things where what I ended up doing is I actually started going to SoundCloud, and I would go to people that are putting out music. And since I consume so much music anyway, if I found something on SoundCloud that was for commercial use and I heard it and I liked it, then I would put it within a playlist, and then I use that playlist now.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But now I'm starting to kind of go away from that, and I feel like I'm probably going to go back to using the music that I want to listen to, like within my stream. If Universal Studios, just like you said, wants to sit on my platform and go, hey, you can't do that, and we're gonna fine you,
Yeah.
and we're gonna rip your channel down, then obviously I'm doing something right if they're on my channel
Yeah.
for one, you know.
Thank you for the view.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for publishing this.
And you know, and a lot of people, if you get your first strike and Twitch comes out to you and says like, yeah, this is your first strike for it, then maybe you should stop, because then you are getting more notice for doing stuff like that.
Right.
But I think until that happens, I mean, play with fire, you know. And coming from somebody that I do not download, and I think a lot of streamers do this, they download their file from Twitch, and like they'll go and download the whole video of their stream and then edit the stream instead of just recording while they stream and just having that file. The issue is that Twitch has a AI that will go and silence all of the audio for your stream for that music. So you're losing out if you're doing that, and that's why I feel like a lot of people just hit the record button. Next year, like if you're using Streamlabs or OBS, just hit the record button while you're streaming, and you can do both, depending on what your setup is. If you don't have a CPU that can handle both rendering the stream and also recording, because it's kind of a giant thing that I think a lot of people don't think about, is that you kind of have to have that kind of setup to be able to do that. If not, then okay, then I understand doing that. But prior to that, yeah, please.
Hold on, I got to write this down. I hadn't considered doing that, but that's actually a really good idea, because I get a few like VOD watchers. You know, I've got a couple of guys that they can't make the normal streams and they say they watch the VOD, and I do feel bad. It's kind of funny because almost all of my stuff is through Spotify. Like I've got my jump off playlist that I do, but they won't mute a lot of it, or even like maybe even 60% of it, which makes me curious how good the algorithm is, or if they're targeting only specific, you know, publishers. But yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. I like that.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Universal Studios was actually like Universal Music. They're actually they're the main one that had a big issue with
they're enforcing their copyright.
Yeah, they're the ones that are enforcing it. But the thing is that when you actually look at the guidelines, it talks about everything after 2000. Like if it's within like the last 20 years, then yes, you'll probably get, you know, you'll probably get silenced. Or if you have like bigger hits, like for instance, I don't know, if you have like an Iron Maiden song that everybody has heard, then yeah, they're probably gonna take it down, you know. But
like, oh no, my 21 Pilots.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it's kind of weird, and I think that the other thing is, I mean, it depends on how you want your stream to be, but if you're playing anything from like now, I feel like the vibe that you have, especially if you're playing, and this is just my opinion, if you're playing like rap or like R&B from the last 10 years, it's very hard to have that in the background and also play or like have it mesh with the game. It's not, it's the beat and everything like that you have, or the instrumental is not, it's meant to be by itself. It's not meant to mesh with other stuff. While like you have later stuff, you know, I mean, even like Queen, you can put Queen on anything and it'll make anything sound good. It'll sound like it's supposed to be there, you know, and that's kind of, I feel like that's something that music just doesn't do now. And that makes me sound weird by saying that, because I do like a lot of newer stuff, but you know, all the newer stuff that I like that can do that happens to be country, and there's like maybe 2% of the people in the world that will listen to the country that I want to listen to, you know? So so I think that's it's a weird thing, and I appreciate you actually saying that and taking the time to say that you did the research before doing it, because when I was very worried about it, because I was playing stuff like Bob Marley when I was playing Sea of Thieves, you know, playing like that kind of vibe and stuff, and I panicked because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Now my stream's gonna have a different vibe, and I'm gonna have to amp myself up differently, and you know, it was just, and exactly like you said, most copyright stuff is all EDM, in your face, hip hop beat, 808s, like in your face. You know, the background of your stream, you're like going like this, but you're actually like playing a chill game. It's very hard to like build it. I don't know. It's hard to build a vibe on that. You know.
Yeah,
So.
when I started doing a lot of the sci-fi stuff, the most requests was like a bunch of synthwave. So I wasn't like a fan of synthwave, but
Oh.
we had gotten it going, and I think that filled the void of just kind of a background music I didn't have to pay attention to. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't irritate me or anything, but it didn't really get me excited like the classic rock. And I'll still do like genre specific. I'll play with the music because I think that's one of the things that helps my stream stand out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, don't take what I read and what I've
Mm-hmm.
decided for myself as like legal advice for
Yep.
what you
Yep.
should. You
100%.
definitely do some critical thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, I'll do like 80s dance parties night.
No.
We'll just put on like a bunch of like the Bangles and
Mm-hmm.
Flock of Seagulls and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
During the Star Trek streams, it's all just the themes and music from Star Trek that entire night. And then occasionally we'll have Fallout Radio, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just all the great hits, the big band stuff from the Fallout games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually really nice because it gets around any kind of takedown because it's all game music.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
sometimes that's a genre that there's so many great tracks in like the Skyrim soundtrack or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
That's a good background music and you can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
So just one of those other things, another tool in the toolkit there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think on one of the other there's another streamer that I watch or I have watched when that was happening. He just literally went to classical Beethoven and like played stuff like that was like very in the background, but it fit the vibe for his stream and it fit his community based on
Good.
what
Okay.
he played. So it was very weird. He went from like playing like 3 Days Grace and stuff like that to playing playing classic, which was like it blew my mind because it actually worked for the game that he was playing because he was playing Flight Simulator and stuff like that and playing Daisy.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I
it
can see
was
that.
one of those things where it was like in the background. It was something that was kind of nice to on the ears to listen to and stuff like that. So one of the I have two more questions for you. One of the questions is when you were have been streaming and stuff like that, how has your gear changed from the first day that like you streamed to like now? Like how drastically has it changed?
So yeah, I'm kind of I'm not the most techie of guys, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely see things that I like and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna, get one of those. So I try to not invest more than, my subs allow.
Uh-huh.
Part of the deal with my wife allowing me to do this basically is full time as I am,
Uh-huh.
is I'm not gonna cost us a bunch of money. I mean, I did make a pretty big investment in a new computer over the summer, but I was due anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this camera I'm on right now, this is a very secondary. I don't use this one very much
Mhm.
at all. It's probably my lowest quality one. It's the one I started with, but it's
Okay.
also the one that's hooked into Discord right now.
Mhm.
So I've basically got 3 cameras. The first one I'm on here, like I said, I don't use. I've got a Razer Kio that's kind of my just chatting. It's this same like straight on
Mhm.
view. And I've got like a kind of a third top down view that's my main camera,
Uh-huh.
which was actually an iPhone, which has an amazing camera on it.
Really?
Yeah, dude, they've got
That's
megapixels
crazy.
to spare. It's really good. Yeah, I
Wow.
encourage you to stop by the stream and check it out sometime.
Mhm.
But
100%.
and then lighting. So that was one of the things I learned. I mentioned I did some videography classes. So like lighting, I've got pretty good lights out here. It's not balanced for the camera I've got right
Yeah.
now. But, and then I've got my Stream Deck. That was kind of a more recent edition.
Mhm.
And it's just, I don't know. I get the idea. It's like, oh, that seems really cool. I should probably go check that out.
Yeah.
I started with an external capture card because I've always had a second computer for streaming.
Mhm.
The first one was a laptop.
Oh, okay.
I found I was getting into bitrate issues
Mhm.
from the transferring the USB. So when I got my new computer, I transferred everything. I got an internal capture card, so that was a really good upgrade.
Mhm.
Other than that, it's just kind of like I feel like I'm kind of good where I'm at. I've got some smart lights in the back, so I can do little, like I've got little animations. I can
Mhm.
hit a button on the Stream Deck and it'll do
That's
like,
awesome.
oh, we got like streamer red alert things,
Mhm.
goofy stuff like that. I'd like to add more lights for that, but other than maybe getting another like decent quality camera for like another view for other scenes,
Mhm.
it's just one of those things you slowly build up your collection
Hmm.
of, more tools in the toolkit.
Hmm. 100%. And honestly, yeah, I mean, you said it. That camera, I've always wondered because the quality was fantastic. But for you to tell me that's you repurpose that's crazy. That's amazing. I've
Yeah,
never even thought about that.
I can't. I don't know if it was Alpha Gaming. It was one of the other channels. They mentioned that,
Hmm.
and it was like a $15 app, so it wasn't the cheapest thing in the world.
Hmm.
But I had the iPhone 6 just kind of sitting around,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, let's give it a try, and it's pretty fantastic. Other than in the last update, it'll sometimes I've got it set in landscape mode. It'll swap to profile, so I got to actually physically spin, and sometimes it doesn't in the middle of the stream, and it drives me crazy.
I've
People are like, camera. I was
Yeah, I feel
doing that.
I went from for when it comes to cameras, I actually took the camera that I started with. I actually took that camera and I donated it to another streamer that didn't
Oh,
have
nice.
one. So I went and did that. But I went and I did my research and stuff like that. And I don't, if you're first starting streaming, please, I'm just a tech weirdo that I like, I dive into tech really. So I wanted to get something that was gonna change, and I also wanted a camera that I could actually go and do photography with as well. So I went ahead and bought a DSLR, which was
Oh man.
it's a weird transition. And honestly, the reason why I did it is because my room, you can't tell, but my room is very small. My room is very small. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, your bed is like really far away from you." Not really. It's like right there. It's
I wouldn't have
literally,
known until you reach out and touch me.
yeah.
That's funny.
It's like right there. Like, and it's because I wanted a wide lens, which is it has the widest lens I can possibly have on a camera. So
Man.
eventually, this bed is going away very soon, and this won't be in my camera shot anymore, and that makes me very happy. But
You
it
have an official studio set up now?
yeah, I will. So that's kind of that was the other thing. Like, have you ever messed with like green screen stuff and stuff like that, or is that
That's
something
actually
that?
how I started out, was with green
Oh,
screen. And
really?
yeah, that was kind of one of those things. And well, getting more promotion for Alpha Gaming. One of the things that Harris talked about was his studio setup. And I completely agree with it, is use it as an opportunity to tell people about yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've got like the Jane hat, the guitar, I've got
Uh-huh.
Star Wars pictures up on the wall, I've got Star Trek statuettes and pop figures and all that. You drop in the channel, you can see, oh, this guy is obviously a giant sci-fi nerd. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I am. That's how I identify. But um, yeah, and I think it's good. And plus, I also have dogs that like to run in and out of the studio periodically because I don't like to keep my door shut very often.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we had one instance where the big dog ran in because she had to give me kisses right then. And not the green screen. It was
Uh-huh.
just like absolute chaos. So I was like, okay, I've got it in the closet if I need it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like the studio approach.
Thank you, because that is that was one of the major. I mean, same thing. Once the bed's gone, then I'll be doing other things. But the posters and stuff like that I have, I'm same thing. I'm a huge anime nerd, obviously, and
Yeah, I can
that's
see you like Attack on Titan,
yeah.
and I'm still super confused by that show, but I know that's something that you're excited about.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where I felt like, and I've had this discussion with a couple other people, and I told them I have a 9x15 green screen that I use for community night. So I have
That
like
is huge.
it's a big boy, and then I have a smaller one that I can use behind my camera. The issue that I have is I feel like when you do that, you're less personable, like because it's just you. You know what I mean? Just a silhouette of you on the game that you're playing. And I feel like that's one of the things, especially I feel like if you're newer, I feel like you want people to know you more personally. You know what I mean? Unless you're streaming somewhere where you don't want people to know, you know what I mean? If you got like a mountain range in the back, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh,
Yeah,
people are going to know, you know?
but sometimes, you're in your living room and, you've
Exactly.
got your kitchen behind you or something like that, and then in which time, yeah, a green screen. But yeah, I like pretty things. I like things that unify my channels. So
Yeah.
if I just had the little like cutout silhouette at the bottom, like a lot of folks do, then I don't get my pretty chat box, and then I
Exactly.
don't have a nice place to tuck them, and it's just well, it's a difference in design approach at that point,
Mhm.
but
Um,
it works for me, and I like it.
what the other thing I was gonna ask you is where. So did you have a name change at all since you've started streaming, or has it always been Captain Archer?
So it has been that was I joined Twitch as Captain Archer years
Okay.
and years,
Uh-huh.
and I really sweated that. And it's not like I had built up like a bunch of friendships with that, prior to streaming. There was,
Mm.
some channels that I had frequented and all that kind of
Mhm.
thing. But it's not actually from, Scott Bakula's Captain Archer. I have to tell this story a lot.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
my gaming tag for over 20 years now at this point has been Green Archer, and
Mhm.
that's why I have a green hoodie on my Archer,
Mhm.
logo. But when I joined Twitch, I was very heavily in MechWarrior Online, and I was in a clan for that. So Green Archer was already taken. So I was like, cool, I'm just going to make myself military sounding and Captain
Uh-huh.
Archer. And
Just
I did
worked
that.
out. Mhm.
Yeah, but I had actually gone through and registered a couple of different accounts. I think Old Graybush was one of them, because I figured it was one of the guys probably getting into streaming.
Mm.
And it's to take it from Grandma's Boy, which is
Mm.
a fantastic movie. But
Uh-huh.
Great Eating, I think, was in there. But yeah, other variations. At the end of the day, I was just like, let's just keep with the Archer. And it's also kind of an evocative thing. Like you
Mhm.
got bacon in there, and you use
Yep.
bacon in your iconography, and so
Mhm.
I use arrows, and
Yep.
have my Discord's the archery range and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of builds towards a theme.
Yeah, and that's and the theme is your logo too is it's very cool. Like the logo is you, which it's on the overlay as well for the podcast, but it's you. You know what I mean? It's
Thanks.
different
Yeah.
because mine is not me. You know what I mean? It's literally
Mhm.
a sweating skull with bacon strips, which is which is something that I've had to. I mean, I've thought about doing a name change as well. I mean, everybody knows me as Bacon outside in my home life and stuff like that. But
Oh, okay.
I actually that's the other people don't realize. So Twitch takes out names that it feels like I don't know if they just feel like they don't want them there anymore or anything like that. So I've personally contacted them to do a name change, but just to take the sweats out of my name and see if I can
Oh,
just
okay.
get bacon. But because nobody else has it, there's a bacon donut. That's the only other guy on the platform that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if I could manage that, that would be awesome. But so I think I think a lot of people. I mean, your name is your platform. I feel like a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people call me Bacon, which is normal because even my family calls me Bacon, which is kind of a weird thing, I guess, when people. I mean, my real name's Chris, so they're like, where the hell did that even come from? You
So
know?
you've got the thing where if Wonder Woman was to lasso you and ask you your name, you'd say Bacon, like Batman says Batman.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And I think that's a lot of, and I'm happy because I mean from that, just that name, it's my emotes are spawned from it, everything like that. And people happen to love it, and it's the same thing with your name. Like Captain Archer is literally like when you see it, and there are a lot of people probably do, like you said, get it mixed up with like the Star Trek reference, right? Because
Right,
it is
right.
and then but I think it's awesome, and I think people who do start streaming, when you do have a name, you do want your emotes and stuff like that to kind of revolve around your name, because your name is the platform, not Twitch is the platform that you're on, but your name is the brand that goes from platform to platform. So
Yeah.
that's something that you kind of have to figure out, which is what I'm still trying to figure out, because now that I'm going to be doing the YouTube stuff more aggressively in October and doing stuff like that, that was because editing, man, editing blows. I'll be honest, it sucks. It takes a
Yeah,
long
I
time.
completely agree. And I've had kind of a lapse in my own YouTube channel. I've actually resolved that, and I've set a schedule.
Mhm.
So this is one of those things that know yourself and know what you're
Mhm.
into. schedules work well for me because if I just leave it to when I'm in the mood, it's never going to happen.
Mm,
But I'm going to spend 1 hour a day, either writing a script, recording it,
mm,
or catching video every single day. 1 hour work doesn't matter what it is towards doing YouTube
mm.
because I know it's going to be important for the long term health of the channel, and I genuinely do like doing it. It just when I sit down to first approach a task, it feels like, oh man, this is
It's
gonna
gonna
be like 7
drag.
hours to do a
Yeah.
5 minute video here. So
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is that so I went the other route. I know, so I do record and stuff like that, and I grab stuff that I want to mix together and stuff. But I went
uh-huh.
and I actually found somebody to do the editing for me.
Yeah, you mentioned you've got an editor, which
Yeah,
is awesome. How's that working out?
it's different because I have to. It's one of those things where when I first started talking to this person, we got together and I basically told the person where I wanted the channel to go and what kind of clips that we wanted to do, and we've kind of collaborated on where I want it to go and what the videos need to look like, and you know if I want it to be like a funny stuff, or if I want to make it more serious and do stuff because I've thought about. I've thought that, for instance, like the podcast stuff, I want to do this, but I want her to clip stuff out. So like different discussion topics and stuff like that, have her clip it out and then post things like that.
Highlights, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of do that, and it's hard. It's easier when you're by yourself because then you're only you know what you want. It may take you a little bit longer, but you know what you want. Having somebody else there, it's hard to give somebody your vision that doesn't necessarily like know what you're doing. You know what I mean, or where you're coming from. So it's been
Yeah.
it's been it's been rough, but it's a good rough because it's also made me learn how to interact with somebody within the entertainment industry, which is something that I've never really had to do before. When like streaming to streamers, we kind of know where we're coming from, but talking to somebody who's just editing that doesn't actually make their own work is very hard because they're like they all they do is edit. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
their sole purpose is to edit.
And they
So
use certain words and terms to communicate what they and so you got to get spun up on that process and
yeah.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, well, at least you had the background, like you were editing your own stuff, so you can
Mm-hmm.
at least, oh, I want to have these cuts, maybe have a little insert here, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And
But I'm sure once you do it at the professional level, it's a whole nother beast to deal with.
yeah, it's weird, and and I want people to. I think that this is one of the things that I wanted to hit up on for people that want to do that. You do not have like I know that people say, "Oh, I'll go on Fiverr and then I'll find somebody to edit my video and just give it to them." I'll be honest with you, like it's better to find somebody who does that and describe what you want to do and tell them, "Hey, let's try this out. If it doesn't work, you know what I mean, then we'll separate. But if it does work, you build a business relationship, which I think that a lot of people don't view streaming as a business relationship, but
Mhm.
everything that you're doing, like if you just only want to stream, that's cool. But if you want to do other things, you have to be able to do that. So you do have to make deals with people and say like, hey, you know, I want you to edit for me. The pay may not be crazy right now, but later on, if things start to grow, then yes, that is something, and you kind of have that contract with that person, and you have that description. If you just tell somebody, hey, like, I just want $15, edit my video, and then give it back to me, they're not going to be as invested into your work as maybe they should be. You know what I mean,
Oh,
or that you
sure.
want them to be.
Y- Yeah, and it's kind of one of those you get what you pay for things,
Mm.
and I think this is definitely one of those. If you are a client and you're trying to get work done, being as clear and concise with what you expect and what you want to see. I did one thing with Fiverr early on where I tried to get like a portrait done
Uh huh.
uh, in the early days, and I was like, "Here's what I want. Here's some examples of this other thing."
Mm.
And can you do that? And I did more than the Fiverr. I paid like $25 or something
Mm-hmm.
for a revision edit, and he just couldn't do it. Like he kept sending me the same thing basically with
Uh huh.
slight variations. Like okay, apparently he had a clip art library and he was just
Uh-huh.
kind of dialing it. So that kind of burned me on that. But yeah, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, networking. You know, you're
Yep.
building your list of contacts. This is a profession, whether you want to treat it like one or not.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and professionals network. They meet other people that are doing the same thing or
Mm-hmm.
adjacent things. You
Mm-hmm.
build your contact list. You reach out, and yeah, and hopefully everybody benefits at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was kind of something that I've had to learn. You know, I've never run a business and stuff like that, and that was kind of, it's a giant learning curve. I have a weird way where people in my outside life, they tell me I can't shut up, which is kind of, I take that as a good thing. You know,
That's good. That's
yeah,
really
that's a
good.
really good thing, I guess. But I think that's one of the art of talking is something that if you want to be a streamer, I feel like you got to figure out. And I think that's kind of podcasting too. If you're looking to do a podcast, that was one of the discussions I had with you is like podcasting is different from streaming because you have to learn how to keep the conversation going and keep it interesting and not just have these subtle pauses and stuff like that and like and I kind of do it weirdly, so I have somebody who does a he's one of my friends and he does his podcast on his stream and everything like that, and he actually writes his guidelines down and stuff like that, and I used to
Oh,
do the
good.
same
Yeah.
thing. I don't do
Uh-huh.
that anymore. I have like 3 or 4 things that I know I want to talk about, and then I see where the conversation goes, and then I try to dismantle it like that. It's like playing with a Rubik's cube for me.
Like some your key points that you're trying to get across, and I
It,
think that's the thing, and that those can be just jumping off points for you to let the natural conversation flow, which
mm-hmm,
is a fantastic approach. When when I started podcasting, like we
mm-hmm.
didn't even do that. It was just kind of I was lucky in that the guy that started it, I was just kind of the color commentary guy.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was just making Star Wars jokes in the
Yeah.
background. But he had done a podcast, a sports one before, so he at least internalized how to do that. But when
Mm-hmm,
he left and I had to pick it up, I was like, oh, okay. And I'm
mm-hmm.
very lucky. I've got one of the guys that joined the show. He's meticulous. Like
Oh, okay.
in his real job, he is a watch repairman. So he is very
Ooh.
detail oriented. Yeah. And
Wow.
it's great because he comes up with these full typed out bullets. I was like, cool, what are we doing today? Awesome. Let's roll with this. And then I
That's
don't read
awesome.
the cheat and we just do whatever anyway. So
And would you say so that did you always know? I think that this will be one of the last questions, but did you always know that you wanted to be a streamer, or you know what I mean? Like as soon as you did it, were you hooked? You were like instantaneously, this is what I want to do, or did it take a little bit for you to realize it? Maybe you wanted
you
to do this
know,
full time.
I think it was great question,
Mm.
by the way. This has been fantastic. I knew what streaming was, and I had been considering it for years.
Mm.
And I saw the opportunity with the tabletop stuff that I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And I liked it enough, and I felt that I had a good enough presence that I could probably make a real go at it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I jumped in, it was okay, like I said, I had an agreement with my wife. I'm going to do this for I want 2 years,
Uh-huh.
2 years to grow a community.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't grown quite as much as I wanted to, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still enough that I feel compelled to keep going and keep growing
Mm-hmm.
and pushing it to see as far as we can go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was definitely something I wrestled with for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to half-ass it.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same thing. I was Air Force prior to owning a store, and then during my store, it was a very competitive market because game stores. I don't know if you've ever really been to those, but they can be a
Mm-hmm.
little uh, kind of like Twitch streaming, actually, where everybody thinks they can do it.
Yep.
And then when the rubber meets the road, they're like, wow, this is a lot more work than I thought, or this isn't nearly as fun as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of went in there with the scales already kind of falling away. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do Twitch full-time streaming, then I'm going to make sure I do the best thing I can with it.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
yeah.
very, and yeah, I do there was a couple gaming stores that were here in Orlando that I did visit and everything like that, and which is kind of weird because you would think Orlando, as big as Orlando is, there would be more, but there's only like 3, if that. Like,
Mhm.
there's really not that many. And it's exactly like you said, they're all completely different from each other. There's a different vibe when you walk into
Uh-huh.
to each of them, and even just the people that are there, there's a different vibe. It's like a different, like, it's like when you walk and talk to one family, and then you go and talk to another family, and they live in the same
Mhm.
city. They're still completely different from each other. It's very like very weird. It's very like community based, which is exactly, I would say it's almost exactly like streaming. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's kinda how I treat it as owning a game store. I grew and tried to groom the community, found who my community leaders were for the various games, whether it's Magic or
Hmm.
Warhammer or anything like that, and those were, like, my go-to guys, and I kinda do the same stuff in my streams. Like, I
Hmm.
know who the regulars are. Those are the guys I promote to moderators that, I know are excited about what I do. They wanna be part of the process. And yeah, either way, it's growing community, and hopefully everybody is successful.
Yep, 100%. And the last question I'm gonna ask you, and this is a question that I'm kind of asking everybody. What if you could give one piece of advice to any new streamer, like they anybody, and I say new because we had talked about it. I would say
Uh-huh.
you're a new streamer if you've been streaming for the last like 4 years. You're still new because
Oh yeah.
I mean the market is only about 15 years old if you really look at it that way. I
Mhm.
mean, so but you're barely at a quarter of the way there that most people
Yeah.
have been doing it for a while. What is the one piece of advice that you would give somebody?
Man. Check out streaming. Like, go through and make a list of the things that you like that other streamers do, and think about how you would incorporate them. And you could do this before you ever go live.
Hmm.
Maybe spend some time, like, get everything set up the way you want, your OBS, your scenes, whatever, your Streamlabs OBS, whatever you happen to use, and do a little stream for yourself. This is something I wish I had done,
Hmm.
and just record it, play it back, watch it. I hate watching myself, but you can
Hmm.
learn a lot from it. And then I think just by going through the motions of the process, you'll probably learn whether you're actually enjoying it or not.
Hmm.
That being said, once you feel like you've got a good place, you can start streaming right away, but I'd say maybe hit up some of the other platforms for,
Hmm.
like, do start up a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
I think you're gonna find better growth, but then again, take grains of salt everywhere, just,
Hmm.
sprinkle it on there. That's one way to do it, or we talked about, like, underserved markets, do your research there.
Hmm.
But I think, honestly, just finding out whether you think it's gonna be fine, and be honest with yourself. Are you going to beat yourself up if you're not getting those numbers that you wanna see? Everybody wants to turn on the camera and be a huge success.
Hmm.
I want that, you want that. We wanna be good at what we do.
Hmm.
If the numbers aren't there representing that, are you gonna get too hard on yourself?
Hmm.
And that's something, we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
and I still deal with, and I probably will be throughout my
Hmm.
career, trying to make sure, well, is it something I did, or is this just trends,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge just to spin off that topic. I think that it takes somebody to it takes a very special person to look at those numbers and go, like, be down about it, but also make changes to change the numbers, or at least critically think about why those numbers are the way that they are, and you use it as a motivation so you don't feel that way. I think that there's a I feel like there's a lot of people, especially nowadays, where they not just numbers, but I feel like a lot of people they have something hard happen in their life, and then they, instead of thinking about how that should never happen again or how to fix that issue, they just kind of sulk, you know what I mean, and not
Mhm.
think about it. And I think that is a huge thing. And research is very huge. I feel like that's not just hardware and stuff like that, but like you said, also researching yourself and figuring out whether or not this is gonna be for you or not, and that's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yes, sometimes it
Mm.
takes time, but. Yeah.
But yeah, actually, just to kind of bookend that, one of the things that I've done that that helps me put things back in perspective. If you've done this for a couple of months, you can go back and look at your stream tools. Look at
Mhm.
your numbers.
Mhm.
Are you objectively doing worse than you are, or
Mhm.
you can look at your numbers and see, or if I just feel like things are a little bit slower than they were,
Mhm.
because I can go back and like I've got a few dips from month to month, but
Mhm.
generally it's a positive curve. And so it's like, okay, I'm reaching an audience. They're enjoying enough that I'm trending upwards still slowly, bit by bit, pushing that
Mhm.
boulder up the hill. But you know, got to get out of your own head sometimes and like look at some hard numbers.
Yep. And I think for anybody who's listening to this or watching this, twitchtracker.com is a huge is a huge source of information for your stream to figure out. It breaks, so Twitch doesn't really allow you to break down what games give you what followers and what percentage of those followers or percentage of just viewership. And Twitch Tracker allows you to look at all those numbers just based on one game that you play. And that's kind of what's changed the way that I do things, because I'm like, okay, this game, like for instance DayZ, like every hour or so, like that I got zero point 0.8 followers, which is crazy compared to playing something else. My exposure rate on DayZ is higher than this game, or just being able to see the month to month, like you said, like those are huge things. Twitch doesn't really give you those numbers like you would want, and I feel like that website gives it to you. So,
Yeah, that's a great tool.
yeah, it's a crazy tool. But I just wanted to say thank you again for coming on here, Cap.
Dude, it was my absolute pleasure. This has been fantastic.
Do you have anything for me before we go ahead and end this? Do you have any questions for me or anything like that?
Oh no, I think we've gotten pretty good flow. As they occur to me, I kind of shout them out. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I feel
that
that.
old diarrhea of the mouth thing kind of thing. I just keep going. But
Um,
yeah, I wish you lots of success in your second season here. I'm very honored again to be the inaugural episode for that. So thank you for thinking of me.
of course.
Hopefully, we'll meet back here again in a couple of years after we're both massive successes and millionaires living in our Twitch mansions. So
Yeah, I one can only hope, you know what I mean? So
right.
but I appreciate it. If you guys aren't following Captain Archer, it's twitch.tv/ Captain Archer. His YouTube links and everything like that will be inside the descriptions. But I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna sign off. I do have another one at 8 p.m. today, which is gonna be Smeagol777. What a name! And it's gonna be interesting. But for real, man, thank you so much, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Have a good one. Thank you very much.
see you guys.